The spaceport of Valoria was unlike anything Milan had ever seen. The human explorer stepped off his small silver ship and felt the warm air of the alien world. The sky was deep violet, and 3 small moons floated in the distance, strange crystal. Towers rose high into the air, shining like mirrors in the sunlight. Around him, alien creatures moved gracefully, their long limbs swaying with each step. Milan had been chosen by Earth's Exploration Council to travel here as an ambassador. It was his job to meet the ruler of Valoria and talk about peace between the two species. It sounded simple when they gave him the mission, but now, standing here among tall aliens with glowing eyes, he felt the weight of the task. 2 Valorian guards approached. They were tall, almost twice his height, wearing silver armor that caught the light. One of them spoke in a deep voice. "Ambassador Milan, the Queen is expecting you." He nodded, trying not to stare too much at their unusual appearance. The guards guided him through the shining city. The streets were wide, filled with floating platforms carrying goods and passengers. Buildings had no sharp edges. Everything was curved, smooth, and elegant. Valoria felt both ancient and futuristic. At the same time, finally, they reached the palace. It stood on a high platform, with steps carved from blue stone. Long banners of white silk moved gently in the wind. The gates opened, and Milan was led inside. The interior was even more breathtaking. The walls were made of a crystal-like material that shifted colors when he moved. Tall columns reached up to a domed ceiling painted with scenes of stars and galaxies. At the far end of the hall was a throne, carved from a single piece of shimmering stone. On that throne sat Queen Azera. She rose as he approached. She was tall and graceful, her skin a soft golden tone that seemed to catch the light. Her eyes were a deep shade of silver, calm yet powerful. Her clothing was made of layered fabrics that flowed like water when she moved. "Welcome, Ambassador Milan of Earth," she said in a voice that was smooth and clear. "You have traveled far to stand in this hall." Milan bowed slightly, remembering his training. "Thank you, Queen Azera. I bring greetings from the people of Earth." The queen stepped down from her throne and walked toward him. "Your people are new to the stars, but your steps are quick. I hope our worlds can learn from one another." As she spoke, Milan's eyes were drawn to something behind the throne. A large silver door, taller than any human building, marked with strange swirling patterns. The markings seemed alive, shifting slowly as if they were made of liquid light. The queen noticed his gaze and paused. Her voice grew quieter. "That is a forbidden room." The words made the air feel heavier. "A forbidden room?" Milan asked. "Yes," she said, her silver eyes holding his. "No human has entered it. Few Valorians have seen what lies within. It is a place of great importance." Milan wanted to ask more, but he felt it would be disrespectful on their first meeting. Instead, he nodded and let the subject drop for now. They moved to a long table where advisors from both species sat. The meeting began with talk of trade, agreements, cultural exchanges, and security. Milan answered questions about Earth's cities, its oceans, its history. In return, the Valorians spoke about their star systems, their laws, and their philosophy. But as the hours passed, his mind kept returning to the silver door. Why had she mentioned it at all? She could have ignored his glance. Instead, she had told him directly, "That is a forbidden room," almost as if she wanted him to know. When the meeting ended, the queen invited him to walk with her in the palace gardens. They stepped outside into a courtyard filled with glowing plants. Small fountains bubbled with water that shimmered in the moonlight. The air smelled faintly of sweet flowers. "Do you like Valoria?" Azera asked as they walked. "It is unlike any place I have seen," Milan said honestly. "Your city is beautiful." The queen studied him. "Beauty can hide many secrets, Ambassador." Again, he thought of the silver door. He wanted to ask her what was inside, but her expression made him stop. There was something in her eyes, not just authority, but something like sorrow. That night, Milan was given a guest chamber in the palace. The walls glowed softly, adjusting to the dim lighting of evening. He tried to rest, but sleep would not come. His mind was full of questions. Why was the room forbidden? What could be inside that even most Valorians were not allowed to see? And why did she speak of it so openly? Hours later, as he sat near the window looking at the moons, a faint sound broke the silence. It was the soft chime of his communicator. He opened it and froze. It was a message, but not from Earth. The words were in Valorian script, yet somehow he could understand them. Meet me in the Hall of Echoes. Come alone. The message was signed, Azera. Milan's heartbeat quickened. The Hall of Echoes was the same grand hall where they had met earlier. Why would the Queen call him there? In the middle of the night, he left his room quietly, moving through the silent palace corridors. The halls were lit only by faint blue lights embedded in the floor. His footsteps echoed softly. When he entered the hall, the Queen was already there. She stood near the silver door, her back to him. You came, she said without turning. I received your message, Milan replied, stepping closer. Why did you ask me here? The Queen finally faced him. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. Because I have decided to break our law, I will let you enter the forbidden room. Milan stared at her. Why me? Because, she said, her silver eyes locked on his. What lies inside may decide the future of both our worlds, and I believe you are meant to see it. Milan stood frozen for a moment, trying to understand the Queen's words. She was breaking her own law. For him, a human she had only met hours ago. Your council would not approve of this, he said carefully. No, Azera agreed, her voice steady but quiet. If they knew, they would accuse me of treason. But there are truths that must be shared before it is too late. The tall silver door behind her seemed even more mysterious. Now, its swirling patterns moved slowly, like a river of light. Milan could almost feel a faint hum in the air, as if the door itself was alive. When will you show me? He asked. Not tonight, she replied. The palace is not empty enough. Too many eyes, too many ears. If we go now, we will be seen. Her silver gaze held his. Tomorrow, when the sun is high and most are in the great market, I will send for you. You must come alone. Milan nodded, his curiosity burning stronger than ever. He wanted to know what was inside, but more than that, he wanted to understand why she trusted him with a dot. The next day, the palace was full of movement. Servants moved quickly through the halls, carrying baskets of rare fruits and long rolls of silk. Guards stood at every entrance from the windows. Milan could see bright banners hanging across the city streets. It was the Festival of the Moons, a day when most Valorians gathered in the market to trade, dance, and celebrate. Milan joined the morning meeting with the Valorian Council. They spoke in polite words, but he could sense a coldness toward him. Some of them looked at him as if he were an unwelcome guest, a dangerous outsider. When the meeting ended, he returned to his chamber to wait. Time passed slowly. He stood by the window, watching the streets below. Music drifted up from the distant market. Finally, a soft knock came at his door. He opened it to see not the Queen, but a single palace servant. She was a small Valorian with pale blue skin, wearing a simple gray robe. In her hands was a folded piece of cloth. She bowed slightly and spoke in a low voice. From the Queen, follow the path marked. Milan took the cloth. When he unfolded it, he saw a small map of the palace's lower halls. A thin silver line was drawn through the corridors, ending at the Hall of Echoes. He thanked the servant and left quietly. The palace felt strangely empty. Most of the noise and movement had moved toward the city's celebrations. The Hall of Echoes was silent when he entered. Sunlight poured in from the high windows, painting the crystal walls with shifting colors. The silver door stood as before, its patterns glowing faintly. Azera was waiting. She was dressed differently now, in a long cloak of deep blue. That made her golden skin seem to shine. You came, she said simply. You asked, Milan replied. The Queen stepped closer, lowering her voice. What I will show you, once seen, cannot be forgotten. It will change how you see my people, and it may change how you see your own. Milan felt a mix of excitement and unease. I am ready. She studied him for a long moment, as if searching his face for any sign of doubt. Then she turned toward the door. The silver markings on its surface began to move faster, glowing brighter as she raised her hand. Her palm rested gently against the metal, and a low sound filled the hall, like a deep heartbeat echoing through the walls. The pattern split apart, forming a tall oval of light. The door slowly opened inward, revealing only darkness beyond. "Stay close to me," she said, stepping inside. Milan followed, the cool air brushing against his skin. As soon as he crossed the threshold, the light from the hall vanished, replaced by a faint blue glow ahead. The door closed behind them with a soft sound. They walked through a narrow passage that curved downward. The walls were smooth and cold, covered in the same swirling markings, but here they were faint and dull. Finally, the passage opened into a vast chamber. Milan stopped in awe. The room was enormous, with a ceiling so high it vanished into shadows. The walls were lined with tall glass tubes filled with strange objects. Some were metallic, others seemed to be made of crystal or stone. Each one pulsed with a faint inner light. At the center of the room stood something unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a circular structure, larger than a house, made of both metal and something that looked almost alive. Its surface shifted like liquid, yet held the sharpness of forged steel. It pulsed rhythmically, like the slow beat of a heart. "This is called the Keeper," Azera said softly. "It holds the memories of my people, every moment, every choice, every truth. It sees the past, and it sees what may come." Milan stared at the strange structure. "Why keep it hidden?" "Because," she replied, "truth is dangerous. Some memories are too heavy for most to bear, and the visions of the future can create fear that changes what will be." They walked closer. Milan could feel a faint vibration under his feet. The Keeper's surface seemed to respond to their presence, rippling gently. "I brought you here," the Queen continued, "because it has shown me something about the future of Valoria and Earth." Her voice dropped even lower. "My council will not believe it. They say the visions are only shadows, not real. But I trust the Keeper, and now I will show you what it showed me." Milan's pulse quickened. He had come here to speak of trade and peace, but now it seemed his mission had become something much greater. The Queen stepped toward the Keeper, placing both her hands upon its shifting surface. The chamber filled with a low hum, and the blue glow brightened. "Stand beside me," she said. Milan moved next to her. The moment his hand touched the surface, a flood of light poured outward, and the room around them dissolved into pure, endless space. The next instant, he was no longer in the chamber. Stars spun slowly around them, and a vast planet floated below Earth. But it was not the Earth he knew. From the shadows of space, massive ships appeared, their shapes unlike any Valorian or human design. Beams of light cut across the void, striking cities and ships like dot. Then the vision shifted, and he saw Valoria, its crystal towers and ruins, its skies filled with fire. Milan turned toward the Queen, but her face was unreadable. "This," she said quietly, "is why I let you in." The vision faded, and Milan felt solid ground beneath his feet again. The stars vanished, replaced by the dim blue glow of the chamber. He let go of the Keeper's surface and took a step back, breathing deeply. "What was that?" he asked, his voice low. "The Keeper's warning," Azera replied. "It shows possible futures. Not all of them will happen, but these are close enough to be dangerous." Milan tried to calm his thoughts. "I saw Earth and Valoria burning. That was an attack. But who were they? Those ships? They weren't human or Valorian." The Queen's silver eyes softened. "That is what I hoped you would ask. They are from beyond our known stars. We call them the Shadow Fleet. We fought them once, long ago, and only barely survived." Milan's mind raced. "If your people fought them before, why hide it? Why not tell everyone?" Azera looked away, her voice almost a whisper. "Because the last time, we did not fight alone. We fought with humans. But after the victory, the council decided the cost was too high. They erased the history. They claimed we had never needed help, and they closed the Keeper to all but the royal line. Milan stepped closer to the great living machine. So the room is forbidden because it holds the truth. Yes, she said. Truth that could unite, or divide, many in my council. Fear that if humans learn of our shared past, they will demand more power among the stars. Others fear the Keeper's visions will cause panic. Milan looked at the pulsing surface of the Keeper. It felt strange to think this silent, living structure had seen both past and future. And you? What do you fear? Her gaze returned to him. That by hiding the truth, we are preparing ourselves for defeat. They walked slowly around the Keeper. The glass tubes along the walls seemed to shift as Milan passed them. Inside each one was something different, a fragment of a broken starship, a crystal glowing with its own light, a tall spear made from black stone. One tube caught Milan's attention. Inside it floated a long piece of metal, shaped like a wing. It was covered in markings he recognized. He froze. That's human writing. The Queen nodded. It is from a human ship that fought with us centuries ago. Your kind called it Horizon. The council kept it here so no one would remember. Milan stared at the relic, a strange mixture of pride and anger filling his chest. His people had been here before. They had fought and died for a world that now pretended it had never happened. Why are you showing me this? He asked again. Because the Keeper has shown me that history is about to repeat itself, she said firmly. The Shadow Fleet will come again. If our worlds fight alone, we will fall. Only together can we survive. Milan moved back toward the Keeper. The steady pulse of light felt like it was watching him, waiting for something. Can it show more? He asked. It can, Azera said, but there is danger. Too much knowledge can change the path of events. If you know too much, you may act too soon, or too late. Still, Milan felt drawn to it. I want to see. If I'm to help you, I need to know. The Queen hesitated, then placed her hand on the Keeper again. The hum deepened, and another vision began to form. They stood once more in the endless dark of space. This time, Milan saw a line of human and Valorian ships flying side by side. Together, they faced the massive black shapes of the Shadow Fleet. The battle was fierce. Flashes of light cut through the darkness, ships twisting and breaking. But the combined force pushed forward, forcing the enemy back. Then the vision shifted again. This time, he saw the same battle, but without the humans. The Valorian fleet alone fought, and their lines collapsed quickly. Cities burned, and the Keeper's voice spoke in a deep, echoing tone. Alone, they fall. Milan shivered. The vision faded, and the blue glow returned. That is why I need you. The Queen said softly, your leaders must know the truth. If they do not, they will not stand with us, and we will all be lost. Milan looked at her, unsure if he should feel honored or trapped. This was far beyond his original mission. What about your council? He asked. If they find out you brought me here, they will try to remove me from the throne, she finished. Or worse. But I have accepted that risk. Milan felt a weight settle on his shoulders. She was risking everything, her rule, her safety, to warn him. And now the choice was his. A sudden sound broke the stillness, a faint chime echoing. From the walls. The Queen stiffened. We have been here too long. Someone is approaching. She moved quickly to the silver door. It opened just enough for them to slip through before closing again. The swirling patterns calmed, hiding what lay beyond in the hall outside. Two guards appeared at the far end. They looked surprised to see the Queen and Milan together. Is there a problem? Azera asked smoothly. One guard bowed. Forgive us, Your Majesty. We thought we heard activity in the Forbidden Wing. The Queen's eyes stayed calm. You heard nothing. Return to your post. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. When they were alone again, Azera spoke quickly. We cannot return to the Keeper openly. From now on, we must be careful. Tomorrow, I will give you something to take back to Earth, proof of what you have. Seeing Milan nodded, his heart still racing from the near discovery. And if the council finds out before then? Her voice was calm, but her words carried a cold certainty. Then you must run. And do not look back. That night, in his guest chamber, Milan lay awake. The vision of burning cities and the sound of the keeper's deep voice were played over him. And over in his mind, alone, they fall. He thought of Earth's leaders, cautious, slow to trust alien warnings. He thought of Valoria's council, proud, unwilling to admit they needed help. And he thought of the Queen, standing before the silver door, breaking her own law for him. He knew one thing for certain. The Forbidden Room had not just changed what he knew. It had changed what he would do. Morning on Valoria came with a pale golden light that poured into the palace windows. The sounds of the city were soft in the distance, merchants calling, transport platforms gliding through the air, and music from the Festival of the Moon still lingering in the streets. Milan sat at the small table in his guest chamber, untouched breakfast before him. His thoughts were not on food. They were on the visions from the keeper. He had been trained to handle diplomatic talks, to remain calm no matter what he faced. But nothing in his training had prepared him for seeing Earth's cities in flames, or hearing the keeper's voice speak of the fall of worlds. A gentle chime at his door broke his thoughts. When he opened it, Queen Azera herself stood there, wearing a long white robe with a silver sash. "We walk," she said simply. He followed her through quiet palace corridors. The usual guards were not at their posts. She had clearly chosen a path where few would see them. They stepped out into a high balcony garden. From here, the view stretched over the city, towers of crystal, silver walkways, and far beyond, the mountains that shone in the morning light. Azera stopped near the edge, looking toward the horizon. "The keeper's visions, they are not always clear," she began. "It shows what may come, not what must come. But this warning is different. It is sharper, closer." Milan stepped beside her. "You think the Shadow Fleet is already coming. I do not think," she said. "I know. The Keeper has never spoken with such urgency. It has shown me their path. They are moving toward our region of space. Months, perhaps less. Before they reach us." The weight of her words settled heavily between them. Milan imagined the silent black ships drifting through the dark, unstoppable, unseen. "Your council," he began, "will not believe me," she finished. Her tone was calm, but there was an edge of frustration beneath it. "They call the Keeper a relic, a piece of old superstition. They will say I am letting fear rule my judgment, and they will do nothing until it is too late." Milan felt a bitter thought rise in him. "On Earth, we're not so different. My leaders will hesitate, too. They will want proof, not visions." She turned to face him fully. "That is why you must take the truth to them. Words will not be enough. I will give you the shard." The shard, her eyes softened, a fragment of the Keeper's memory, crystallized. "It will show what you saw, the visions of both futures. With and without unity, your leaders will see it as you did." They walked along the balcony path, hidden from the lower courtyards by tall flowering vines. Milan noticed the Queen's hands were folded tightly, a rare sign of tension in her otherwise calm presence. "Last night," she said quietly, "I saw another vision in the Keeper after you left." "What was it?" Her gaze turned distant. "A human ship, drifting in darkness, alone. No signal, no light, and then nothing." Milan's chest tightened. "It could be any ship. It was yours," she said simply, for a moment. The sounds of the city seemed far away. He did not know what to say. Finally, he found his voice. "Then I'll make sure that vision never comes true." The Queen gave a small nod, as if that was the answer she had hoped for. Later that day, they met again in a small council chamber, but not for official talks. The room was plain, with no advisors, no guards. Only a round table and a single crystal lamp. On the table lay a small object wrapped in silver cloth. Azera carefully unfolded it, revealing a shard of deep blue crystal. Inside it, faint lights moved like distant stars. "This," she said, "is your proof. Protect it well. If it is broken, the memory will scatter, and no one will believe your words." Milan reached for it, but she stopped him with a raised hand. "If the council learns you have this, they will seize it. You must leave quietly. When the time is right." He frowned. "Quietly? I'm still their guest. They won't just let me walk out." Her voice was firm. "I will create the distraction. But until then, You must act as if nothing has changed, attend the meetings, smile, agree to their empty promises, give them no reason to suspect. That evening, a formal dinner was held for the visiting human ambassador. The grand hall was filled with soft music, the scent of rare fruits, and the quiet murmur of polite conversation. Milan sat across from members of the Valorian Council, answering their questions about Earth. But while they asked about farming, methods, and trade routes, he could see the doubt in their eyes. One counselor, an older Valorian with silver hair, leaned forward. Ambassador Milan, do humans often see threats where none exist? It was an innocent-sounding question, but Milan felt the trap in it. He kept his tone light. On Earth, we prepare for storms before we see the clouds. Sometimes the storm never comes, sometimes it saves lives. A few members gave polite nods, but most simply sipped their drinks. From the far end of the table, Azera watched silently, her expression unreadable. When the dinner ended, Milan returned to his chamber. He sat in the quiet, holding the shard in both hands. The faint lights inside it shifted slowly, almost like they were alive. He thought of the keeper's visions again, and of the choice that lay before him. If he stayed, he might learn more, but risk losing the shard to the Valorian Council. If he left now, he could reach Earth sooner, but without more details of the threat. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. He opened the door to find the same small servant from before. She bowed and whispered, "The Queen says, be ready tomorrow. The path will open." Milan slept lightly that night, his mind restless. Just before dawn, he woke to see the moons low in the sky, their pale light spilling across the floor. In that moment, he realized something. The keeper's visions were not just a warning. They were a test. The future was not fixed, but without action, the darker path would come true. He placed the shard carefully in the hidden pouch of his jacket and stood at the window, somewhere far out in the darkness of space. The shadow fleet might already be moving, and somewhere in this palace, the Queen was risking everything to make sure he left with the truth. The room was darker than usual. Aaron felt the air heavy, as if it carried 1,000 whispers. The alien Queen stood near the center, her tall figure lit only by the soft blue glow coming from strange crystal shapes in the walls. She turned her head slowly toward him. "This is no ordinary chamber," she said, her voice calm but holding a weight of warning. "You have been here before, but what I must show you now will change your path forever." Aaron's heart thumped. He had seen many wonders in this place since the Queen allowed him into her world, but each visit seemed to reveal something deeper, something more dangerous. "I'm ready," he said, even though he was not sure if he truly was. The Queen stepped forward and touched one of the crystal shapes. It flickered, then expanded into a wide beam of light that stretched toward the floor. Inside the beam, a picture formed, a giant structure floating in space, covered in strange markings. Aaron leaned closer. "This," the Queen explained, "is the Gate of Worlds. It was built by my ancestors long before your people learned to cross their own seas. It connects our galaxy to many others, but it was sealed because of what lies beyond." Aaron's eyes widened. "What's beyond?" Her voice grew quieter, as if speaking to loudly might awaken something, an enemy that was never defeated, only locked away. They are older than both our kinds, and their hunger has no limit. If the gate is open, they will come. A chill ran down Aaron's spine. "Then why are you showing me this? Isn't it safer to leave it sealed forever?" The Queen's expression turned grave. "Because the seal is weakening, and it will not hold much longer. My people do not have the strength to fight them again, but I believe your people might." Aaron took a step back. "Me? I'm not a soldier. I'm not even sure how I ended up here in the first place." She nodded slowly. "And yet, you are here. Fate often chooses the ones who think they are not ready. That is why I must teach you what I know, and why you must see the rest of this chamber." She led him deeper into the room, where the walls seemed to curve inward. In the center stood a pedestal, holding a small object, a cube of metal, etched with symbols that glowed faintly. Aaron felt an odd pull toward it, like it was calling his name without sound. "What is that?" he asked, It is the key of the gate, she said. It cannot open the gate by itself, but it can control where the gate leads. Without it, the gate would open to all paths, including the ones that lead directly to our enemy. Aaron hesitated. You're trusting me with this? Her eyes met his. I am trusting you to keep it safe until the time comes. If the wrong hands take it, we will not have a choice in the matter. The invasion will begin. He reached out, but stopped just short of touching it. If this thing is so important, why not hide it somewhere no one could ever find? Because, she said softly, it must be used. Hiding it forever would not stop the seal from breaking. When that day comes, the key will be the only way to control what happens next. Aaron finally picked it up. The cube was surprisingly warm, almost alive. The glowing symbols shifted slightly, as if responding to his touch. It feels strange, he murmured. That is because it knows you, the queen said. The key chooses its holder, just as the gate chooses who may enter. Before Aaron could reply, the walls of the room trembled. The blue crystals dimmed for a moment, then flared again. A deep sound, like the rumble of a distant storm, echoed around them. The queen's head snapped toward the far side of the room. We are not alone, she said sharply. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, tall, armored, and carrying a staff tipped with a black crystal. Its face was hidden behind a mask, but its voice was cold. So, the human has the key. Aaron instinctively stepped back. Who are you? The queen stepped in front of him. You do not belong here, she told the figure. The intruder tilted its head slightly. I belong wherever the key is. Hand it over, and no harm will come to your guest. Aaron could feel the queen's tension. You're lying, she said firmly. You serve them, don't you? The masked figure made no denial. We all serve something, Queen. Some of us simply choose to serve the winning side. Aaron tightened his grip on the cube. The warmth inside it grew stronger, almost pulsing. The queen gave him a quick glance. Run, she whispered. Before he could react, the intruder raised the staff, and a wave of dark energy rushed toward them. The queen's hand shot out, creating a shimmering barrier just in time to block it. The force of the attack shook the entire room. Aaron stumbled, clutching the cube. He looked toward the door, but part of him hesitated. Leaving meant abandoning the queen, but staying meant risking losing the key. The queen's voice was sharp now. Aaron, go. Protect the key. With one last look, Aaron turned and ran. The sound of clashing energy and the queen's battle cry followed him out into the corridor. His heart pounded as he ran through the twisting halls, unsure if he was going toward safety or into even greater danger. He didn't know how far he would get before the masked figure came after him, but he knew one thing. The queen had trusted him, and now the fate of more than just one world might rest in his hands. And for the first time, Aaron began to understand that he couldn't run from that fate forever. The great hall of the alien palace felt colder than usual. Rian stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the tall windows where pale light spilled through the crystal frames. The alien queen entered silently, her long steps graceful, her silver robe flowing behind her. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of something unspoken. They are inside the city, she said quietly, as if speaking the words loudly would bring the danger closer. Rian's eyes narrowed. The invaders, the queen gave a slow nod. Not an army, not yet. Scouts, silent ones. They move like shadows, and they are here for something hidden. Something only the forbidden room can protect. The memory of the strange room under. The palace returned to Rian, the walls of glowing symbols. The feeling of something alive resting in the air. It had been unlike anything he had seen. He remembered how the queen had allowed him to enter despite calling it forbidden. Now, he understood why she had been so hesitant. We need to know what they're looking for, Rian said, and we need to find them before they find it. The queen stepped closer. If we fail, they will not just take what is ours. They will take this planet's future. Later that night, Rian walked along the palace's lower corridors with two alien guards at his side. The torches burned with a pale blue flame, casting moving shadows against the carved walls. He could feel the air change heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. They reached the entrance to the forbidden room. The door, a slab of black stone with threads of light crawling across its surface, opened slowly after the Queen's special command was given. Inside, the same golden light greeted them. The air smelled faintly of metal and rain. Rian moved toward the center where a pedestal stood. Upon it rested a sphere made of crystal, inside of which swirled what looked like a miniature galaxy, stars, and dust spun in endless motion, pulling his gaze deep inside. "This is what they want," the Queen said from behind him. "It is called the Star Seed. It can create or destroy life on a world. It can make barren land bloom or turn thriving worlds into stone." Rian turned to her. "And you've kept it here all this time," she nodded, "guarded by my family, for generations. But now, I fear our walls are no longer strong enough." The sudden sound of stone cracking broke the moment. One of the guards shouted, drawing his weapon. From the shadows of the hall outside the room, tall dark figures stepped forward. They were covered in black armor that shimmered faintly, as if bending the light around them. The invaders had found the room. "Protect the Queen," Rian shouted, moving in front of her. The guards engaged first, their weapons humming with bright energy as they clashed with the shadow-armored intruders. Sparks lit the air as metal met metal. One of the invaders broke through the defense, moving straight toward the pedestal. Rian tackled him before he could reach the Star Seed. The two rolled across the polished floor, their strikes echoing through the chamber. The enemy moved with unnatural speed, his blows strong enough to make Rian's arms shake as he blocked. But Rian's determination was stronger. With a quick twist, he disarmed the attacker and sent him sliding across the floor. The invader disappeared into the shadows as if melting into them. More attackers came, but each was met with fierce resistance. The Queen moved gracefully between the fight, her own staff glowing with silver light. Every strike from her weapon sent a wave of force that pushed the enemy back. When the last attacker vanished, the room was left in tense silence. The air felt heavy again, and the golden glow seemed dimmer. "They know where it is now," Rian said. Breathing hard, "they'll be back, and in greater numbers." The Queen's gaze lingered on the Star Seed. "Then we cannot leave it here. We must move it to a place they will never expect." "Where?" Rian asked. She met his eyes. "Far beyond this city, to the mountains of white stone. There is a vault there, older than my own people, only one who has walked both the skies. And the soil can open it. That is why," she paused, "that is why you must carry it." Rian froze. "You trust me with this?" "I do," she said simply, "because you are not from here. The invaders do not know you. They will be looking for an alien queen, not for a human traveler." Rian stepped forward and placed his hands round the Star Seed. It felt warm, almost alive, and a strange hum passed through his arms. "I'll get it there," he promised dot by dawn. Rian had left the palace with a small group to alien scouts and the silent mechanical beast that carried supplies. The city behind them was waking to another day, but for Rian, the weight of the Star Seed made each step heavier dot as they moved into the open plains. A distant shadow passed across the sky. It was not a bird, and it was not a cloud. The invaders had flying machines, and they were already searching. The Queen's final words before he left echoed in his mind. "Do not let it fall into their hands. If you must, run beyond the edge of the world." The wind pushed against his back, as if urging him forward. He knew the next days would test not just his strength, but his will. The Star Sea was more than a treasure. It was the heartbeat of an entire world, and he was now its guardian. And somewhere behind him, in the growing light of morning, the hidden enemy was already on the hunt. Rian stood at the edge of the great silver door deep inside the forbidden room. The alien queen stood beside him, her calm eyes fixed on the shimmering patterns across its surface. For a long moment, they both stayed silent. The faint hum of ancient energy filled the air, and the glowing lines on the door shifted slowly, like a living thing. "This is it," the queen said softly. "The last barrier." Rian nodded. His heart beat faster. He had come so far, from the first moment. He stepped into the alien city, to the test in the crystal chambers, to the trials that proved his courage. Now, only this door stood between him and the truth hidden for centuries. "What's behind it?" he asked. The queen glanced at him, her voice calm yet heavy. "The core of memory. It holds the history of my people and the history of yours." Rian felt his throat tighten. "Ours, yes," she said. "You will understand when you see it." The queen stepped forward and placed her palm on the center of the door. The patterns brightened and spread outward like ripples on water. A deep, low sound echoed through the room, and slowly, the massive door began to open. A rush of cool air swept past them as the gap widened. Beyond it was a vast, circular chamber, its walls covered with floating crystal panels. In the center, suspended above the floor, was a great sphere of light. The sphere pulsed gently, as if it were breathing. "This is the core," the queen said as they entered. "Every memory of our people for thousands of years is here. It remembers everything, even the first meeting between our kind and yours." Rian stepped closer to the sphere. As he did, one of the floating panels drifted toward him. Images formed on it: stars, ships, strange worlds. Then he saw humans. His eyes widened. They looked like explorers, wearing simple suits, walking across an alien desert. Beside them were beings like the queen, though younger, their faces open and curious. "They met long ago," Rian whispered. "Yes," the queen said. "We were allies once. We built wonders together. But something happened, something that broke our bond." More panels floated around him. They showed warships, burning cities, and great rifts opening in the ground. The alliance was gone. Fear and mistrust replaced friendship. Rian turned to the queen. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because," she said, "the cycle may repeat. I let you into the forbidden room because I believe there is still hope. But that hope depends on what you choose now." Rian's mind raced. "What do you mean?" The queen walked to the core and rested her hands near it. "This memory can be shared with your people. They will see what was lost and what can be rebuilt. But if they are not ready, it could cause fear, even war. You must decide if the truth will help or harm." Rian looked around at the countless memories. He thought of the days he had spent here, the trust the queen had given him, the dangers they had faced together. He thought of the alliance that once was, and the possibility that it could be again. I can't promise what my people will do," he said honestly, "but I can promise to try." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "That is all I can ask." She reached into the core. The sphere brightened, and a single crystal shard emerged, glowing faintly in her palm. She offered it to him. "This holds the truth. Guard it well." Rian took the shard carefully. It was warm in his hand, and he felt a strange pulse inside it, like a heartbeat. He knew this was more than just history. It was a bridge between two worlds. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. The floating panels flickered. The queen's expression hardened. "We have little time. The city is unstable without the core's full power. You must leave now." They moved quickly back toward the great silver door. Behind them, the hum of the chamber grew louder. Rian glanced over his shoulder one last time, memorizing the sight of the core before the door slid shut with a final, echoing sound. As they stepped out into the main hall, the queen paused. "Rian," she said, "remember this. Trust is built slowly, but it can be lost in a heartbeat. Protect the shard, but also protect the bond it represents." He nodded firmly. "I will." The queen gave him a small, almost imperceptible smile, then turned and walked back into the shadows of the hall. Rian knew this was their goodbye. For now, the journey back to his ship felt longer than before. Every step echoed with the weight of what he carried. He passed through the silent streets of the alien city, the tall towers gleaming faintly under the light of the twin moons. Somewhere deep inside, he hoped that one day humans and the queen's people could walk those streets together, not as strangers, but as friends. When he reached his ship, he placed the shard into a small protective case. As the engines warmed, he looked out the viewport at the distant glow of the alien city. He didn't know if he would return, But he knew the Queen's trust had given him something far greater than a mission. It had given him a purpose. The ship lifted into the night sky, leaving the ancient city below. Stars stretched out before him, endless and full of possibility. In the quiet of space, Ryung closed his eyes for a moment. "I'll keep your trust," he whispered to the memory of the Queen's voice. "And I'll make sure they know." The stars shimmered, and the ship sailed forward into the unknown, carrying with it the fragile hope of two worlds.